What's up, what's up, what's up, Bears fans? We're going to give it just a minute here. I'm starting it earlier than I said I would, so I'm going to give it just a couple minutes. We'll get into some Bears talk. Might be a new thing that I do. I've done the Free Talk Tuesday where I get a little more passionate or emotional, however you want to look at it. And Tuesdays and Thursdays are my best days to chat it up and chop it up, Bears talk. So I thought about doing this on a more consistent basis. Be able to chat it up with you guys. What's up, Relentless Mikey? Good to see you in there. Evie, everyone, good to see everyone. Yes, there is still stuff going on right now. If any of you didn't tune in, I did check out Notre Dame's pro day today. In fact, we should pull up what the schedule is so you guys know what's going on. The next big one is LSU's pro day on the 27th. Ken, good to see you in the chat there, buddy. Thanks. It was fun to be on with Nomad. I expected a little different format than what it was, but ended up having some fun with them anyways. I've kind of killed the mock drafts at this point, and I mean killed as in they're dead to me. But we did one. Ended up being all right, but I really didn't want to go down that Jaden Daniels path because I don't want that to be where the narrative goes anymore. So many people think I'm anti-Caleb, and I'm not. I'm really not. I just see value in different things, and I like to analyze things. Few days after the trade, how you feeling? I'm going to be honest. I really, really like Justin Fields. But I respect where the brass is going with this team. Anytime they see the potential for a reset on that quarterback clock and they can have Kerry Joseph and Shane Waldron work with him right from the rookie gate and how well this team is stacking up. What does this say here? What are you telling me, YouTube? It's a good thing. My bit rate is low. I don't even know what that is. I'm still fairly new to this, guys. So I'm okay. I just really like the option of the haul, as you guys know. I just really, really like that option of the haul. All I care about now is seeing Bagent take it to the next level. Hey, if you guys didn't see, Tyson Bagent is down in California with one of the QB schools. I don't remember which one it was, but a lot of big names go to it, and he's working on his craft. He's taking this very seriously. He doesn't want to be the backup. He doesn't want to be, and he's not going to beat out initially the number 1 overall pick or the number 2 overall pick, but I appreciate his work ethic and him going for the grind. Still believe Poles is doing his due diligence at quarterback. You are 100% spot on, Jay. Anyone who is saying you have to take Caleb Williams at this point is wrong. I'm not anti-Caleb Williams, guys, at all. I really, really like this pro day. But the Bears have not made their decision yet. But if you guys have seen on this channel, I've said it's 90% at this point. Once they traded Justin Fields, they made it clear and obvious the direction they were going was not progress and Justin Fields improving every year. Like my analysis wasn't wrong on that. He has improved every year. What it turned into was we're resetting this quarterback clock with brand new leadership, with a new quarterback coach, with a new offensive coordinator. And so people ask, well, why didn't we get rid of Eberflus then? Well, he's a head coach who's bringing culture. That's the big thing with Eberflus. They want the culture built the way that he's building it, and he's more on the defensive side. So bringing in Shane Waldron, Kerry Joseph, everyone on that side of the ball really is now we're going to mold whatever rookie this is from day one. We're going to mold him into who we want and have a better shot right off the bat for him to be successful. So Bagent's staying around. Yes, he is staying around. Nobody should assume Bagent's going anywhere. He's one of the best backups in the league. And Bagent will be valuable to this team, 100%. Did the Falcons lose their 8th pick for tampering? No, and I don't see that happening. Very serious that they could be found guilty of tampering, but if that happens, it would be unprecedented for that to be their first-round pick. It could be like a third-round pick. Could even be second, but not the first. We're not going to get that lucky. I wish we could, but it's not going to happen. I just don't know what Kirk Cousins was thinking buying his house before the trade was before free agency even hit. Don't even know what he was thinking there. Listening to comments from DJ, Jalen, and hearing Komet's response, good chance Poles has lost some love in the locker room. People aren't robots. Hey, I understand what you're saying, but as you hear them talk more, I listened to DJ this morning on 670, and I'm going to put this on at some point. My new favorite player, had his jersey from before. I love that DJ's a dad, and I'm a bear dad. I am 100% in love with my little girls and my teenage son. It's the most important thing, more than football, more than anything else. Family comes first with everything, and I love hearing DJ every time. He won my heart over last preseason, last off season when he had his little girl there on the field. And you listen to him. DJ was told beforehand, albeit moments before the trade happened, Komet's coming. It's a business. They understand it, and they get the basis behind it in the end. But it is hard. But I don't think he's lost the locker room. I think the culture Eberflus has built is 100% right on board with where you want a team culture to be. And I think we're going to be just fine. You must feel pretty good about Caleb to have already traded their starting quarterback. Yeah, of course. Both the Bears and the Commanders. But the same is to be said. Okay, let's look at this, guys. It's not where I was heading with this. We'll get into my stuff in a minute. I started this early, but now we're on time. Let's look at this. Obviously, these teams, if the Commanders traded away Sam Howell, who had clear flaws, this is the epitome of why you don't just look at a stat sheet. He had tons and tons of yards, but so many flaws. He's not a QB1, and he shouldn't be a QB1. He could be if he sits behind the right situation and develops properly. But for them to trade him away, they're not guaranteed Caleb Williams. This very much could be a situation where teams are viewing this draft class like a 2020 draft class, which is higher than I give it credit for. I saw this being better than the 2021 draft class, but not as good as the 2020 draft class and not as good as 2026 down the road. But there's so many needs for quarterback with teams right now. So many teams need a starting quarterback that they very much could see even more than, but we'll just say at the top of this draft, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, they could be the Joe Burrow, the Justin Herbert, the Tua Tagovailoa this year. They can see there being three quality and even more, even if you go down to J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix or Michael Penix, even into that it's something where these teams must see that high caliber. Well, now, if that's true and we get to 27th of this month and the Bears are down at LSU's Pro Day, and we see Jaden Daniels being 1B behind Caleb Williams, and the Commanders say, we want him so freaking bad, we'll give you this year's swap of 1 to 2. We'll give you both our seconds. We'll give you a third. We'll give you next year's first and the year after's first. Insane. Absolutely insane. That is a massive overpay. But if they see Patrick Mahomes in him and they don't see it in Jaden Daniels, they can come to that decision. And it would be stupid for Ryan Poles not to do that if he sees Jaden Daniels as 1B. If he sees them right there with Caleb Williams. And there's lots of reasons to think he could be. So that's why the Commanders traded Sam Howell. Is the only reason they do is if they see multiple guys at the top of this draft as being starter right away worthy. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, that type of draft class. So, yeah, Komet did say he was told minutes before the trade. So did DJ. None of them knew well in advance. So there are options, guys. And I don't think they've made the decision already. I don't. The big news today was the Bears did have people in attendance down at Notre Dame's Pro Day. Now, remember, Notre Dame's players that won't necessarily be listed as a top 30 visit for us. We won't necessarily see those because they're local, so they don't have to be counted against our top 30. But the people that were in attendance were SEMO, Chris Morgan, the head of player personnel. I don't remember his name right now. Sorry. And then a couple of scouts. So Ryan Poles wasn't there, and it was really line focused. So Javon Foster and Joe Alt are really what you'd be looking at there. And I don't see Joe Alt being available at 9, but if he is, you snag him up. And that's kind of a sign of that. That's what I've been saying all along. So we can still trade the number 1 for more picks. Still on the table. Yes, it's still on the table. Like I've said, guys, I've said this all along. Ever since Justin Fields was traded, it's 90% we're going with Caleb. That's what's going to happen. But if the Commanders do something really dumb like the Herschel Walker trade way back in the day and they leverage their entire future for one person, then I think it would be irresponsible for Ryan Poles not to say, okay, we'll take 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and a third all this year. All high value, so we can still take Jaden Daniels and get that haul. I think it would be irresponsible not to do that. So Caleb does have the fastest release I've seen. Don't like the Mahomes comparison. He's not Mahomes. Rodgers is a better goal. All right, let's talk about that for a minute. That's from Reese Reed. Caleb Williams, once he makes a decision, has the quickest flick of his wrist I've seen. That is a very Mahomes-type comparison. Mahomes, once he makes a decision, and they play very similar in that way with the flick of their wrist. And so I see that. Jaden Daniels anticipates better. If you watch him and his film compared to Caleb Williams' film, Jaden Daniels doesn't look for the home run ball every time, and that's something that can be coached into Caleb. Caleb's got some raw talent, so let's not discount Caleb. He really, if we get him or Jaden, we're in good shape. We really are in good shape right now. But I really think Jaden sees at an NFL level the anticipation more purely, which is why he had such a nice year this year. And one of the things you guys know I love about players is when they ascend every year and they improve every year. He's making those progress every year. Now, he did have better talent around him, and Brian Thomas Jr. is one of my favorite players in this draft, as some of you might know. And Brian Thomas separates like crazy, so even if we get Caleb and then tag on Brian Thomas with him, I'm super stoked to be able to have those two playing together. So, yes. You also thought there was no way they would trade Fields. You're grasping at air. Hey, thanks, Illinois Jones. I was wrong on that they did it, but my analysis wasn't wrong. Caleb Williams is younger, well, not even much, but better contract and resetting the clock with coaches working forward. So, guys, you can throw some hate on me. I did think we were keeping Fields for the haul, but apparently that $22 million next year and a long-term contract was a bigger deal to the Bears. And so let's talk about that for a minute. So Justin Fields is clearly a top 20 quarterback in this league. And if you see him ascending every year, what it comes down to is, do Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham say, is he going to make that leap and make it worth it financially for us to justify him being a top 10 quarterback? Well, that's a much safer decision to make with a rookie. As much as you want to slice it, it's a safe call. That's what happened. They made the safe call. Highlights aren't film, bro. I'm not talking about just highlights. Maybe someone else was. Sorry, I might have missed something there. All right, so let's get into what I was going to show today. My first thing, so some of the contract values are coming out and the salary cap. So right here first, here's where we stand today. And it's more than what I have been anticipating because I'm going to show you some of the contracts and how they've been backloaded. So now as we sit, the cap space for the top 51 is $23,500,000 roughly. And our projected draft pool cap is $12.299 million. That leaves us with about 10.5 when you factor in some of those players being replaced by league minimum contracts, replacing some of the 985. We're roughly 10.5 million. Okay, so there's where we stand. Let me change these images and show you some of the things that have changed on that, because I was showing you we're sitting at 6-7 million is where we were, but let's look at some of these and how that changed. So here's Kevin Byard's contract. Look in the middle there. It was a 2-year, $15 million contract. Where it's blue, see how he's backloading some of these contracts, but he's doing it in a way where the dead cap isn't going to kill us next year if the player doesn't work out. So 6.5 million cap hit this year, 8.5 million cap hit next year. So that saves us roughly $1 million over the 15 million this year. Not overall, not long term, but this year. And the reason he could do that is because next year's salary cap is supposed to jump by 30 million as well. Let me go. I'm trying to pull up the next one, guys. Okay, so here's DeAndre Swift's. All right, so DeAndre Swift's came out. Now look at the same thing. 3-year, $24 million. But there on the left, inside the blue on the left, look at that, $5.8 million this year, 9.3 the year after, and 8.33 after. And look at the dead cap after year 2. Gives us an out on the contract. So it's huge the way he's front-loading these for the future, but also giving us flexibility this year. And I'm going to spoil it right now. I think something's coming down the pipeline right now. I think he's working on something. So 5.8 this year, and then one more. The other one that just came out, just barely released, was Gerald Everett's. That released today. Here's Gerald Everett, same thing. So 2-year, $12 million, and look how it's front-loaded. 5.46 this year, 6.5 next year, and a dead cap of only $1 million. He's given himself so many outs. If he doesn't think these guys are working out year one, these are basically 2-3 year prove-it deals. That's what they're doing. And then the other thing to take into consideration is Keenan Allen. You hear the stuff about the $5 million that was due as a roster bonus that could have been converted into a long-term contract. That's passed. That was last Sunday, so we're stuck with that $23.1 million. I mean, stuck. It's a good problem to have. But they could still work on an extension that could restructure part of that this year. I don't see that restructure part happening, but we could extend him, which I think all of us want to have happen if he can do it. Especially he can do a similar 2-3 year with the type of out like these are showing. And then here's our possible cuts, guys. Now, outside of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and players of that caliber that have cap-friendly contracts, here's really the ones that we could get rid of this year. And sorry, I'm not reading the chats right now, guys. And it's just me doing the show. So if you guys are saying stuff, I'll be happy to get to it in a minute. We'll look at some stuff and do some free talk stuff. But Larry Borom is as good as gone to me right now. I think he's absolutely gone. You heard Ryan Poles talk in we'll pull this up in a minute. Ryan Poles talk at the Combine. He said specifically, he offered the information up. They didn't even have to ask him for it. He offered it up and said, this is a deep tackle class. And to me, that screamed that he is targeting someone to come in and compete with Braxton Jones and or be the swing tackle, one or the other. That way we'll have solid depth, because Larry Borom was one of the worst in the league, second to worst tackle out of everyone. And he has no place on a competitive roster to be able to be that spot for us. We need to strengthen that. And no, these low-level signings we had are not that. They're there to compete and try to make a name for themselves, but they're not the answer. Cutting Bayless Jones, so many people saying that cutting Bayless won't do anything for our salary cap, and it doesn't do anything for us. There's no positive to cutting Bayless Jones, guys. There's a zero positive to cutting Bayless. He didn't have a drop last year. Do you guys realize that? A lot of people are so hard on him from 2 years ago. Dante Pettis clearly came in for punt return and return duties, but nothing good will come from cutting Bayless Jones. They obviously have plans for BJJ, which is why he has, even if it's just the sweep action, motion action out of the backfield, getting 10 yards. I have no idea why Getsy didn't utilize that more. It happened one game, and then he would never do it again in the same game. Like, we don't like 10-yard gains. Let's not do that anymore. It's not going to happen. But Ryan Poles has said that he wanted that's a deep tackle class. And for those that didn't see, the top 30 visit has been scheduled for Kieran Abengaji. I'm not saying his name right. The Yale tackle. And he has a lot of upside to him. So if we can snag him at 75, boom. I'm super enthused about that. I am beyond enthused about that. So let me see. So let's bring this back. All right, Larry Borom gone. That is going to save us another $3 million. I don't see Travis Homer going anywhere, especially for his special teams unique abilities. Excuse me. But Kerry Blasingame, there's only about 13 fullbacks left in the league, and he would save us $2 million. And Shane Waldron hasn't really worked with fullbacks, more of tight ends. So if we cut Kari Blasingame, however you guys want to say it, if you cut him, we definitely are going to focus on another tight end and not just re-signing Mercedes Lewis, which right now is kind of what I think we're leaning to do, is just re-signing Mercedes Lewis because his blocking ability, and he says he still has gas in the tank. I'm always salty on Bayless. Don't be salty on Bayless. Give him a shot. The year 1 to 2 situation with players, I want to see what happens with Tyler Scott this year. We've got some speed. Let me see if I pull this up real quick, guys. I did in my other video. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. A potential roster of what could happen. Let me pull this up. Give me 2 seconds because I didn't have it ready for this. Do. All right, let me pull that up. Okay, so you guys saw the image that was shared on Football Night in Chicago, NBC Sports. This is that, but I adapted it to be the new roster. And this is just a possibility. But say we have Caleb there, and now we've changed it with DJ Moore, which was there, but Keenan Allen coming into that. Look at his 5.3 drop rate, 50% contested catch rate. If we were able to land Rome at 9, which is my dream. This is my dream scenario right now, is to get Rome. Obviously, he doesn't have NFL experience, so that's why it says incomplete, same as Caleb Williams. But then Tyler Scott running a 4.44, he's speedy. If he can get on the jugs machine and fix those drop passes, the dude should have had a couple touchdowns this last year. Velus Jones, 4.31. Dante Pettis, 4.32. And I put his 2022 year in here because last year he was injured. He wasn't on the team. But Tyler Scott, I really do want to see what we can pull from him. We still don't have an X, which is why I think Rome or Brian Thomas would be that guy there. I mean, even if you insert Brian Thomas right there, 6'3", 210 pounds, 4.33 40, there's possibilities with this team. There's really some excitement. So anybody who's saying we shouldn't have high expectations on this team, I completely disagree. It's just a matter of whether we can get those last couple pieces. No, Odunze won't necessarily be there. I'm not projecting he will. I think both Alt and Odunze will be gone. This is why I've said from 9 to 13 is our best scenario. My best scenario right now is trade down from 9 to 13, 14, depending on how bad New Orleans would want to trade up for their edge. I don't think they will because there's going to be several edges available there. But it could be a strong possibility of one of the quarterbacks that those three teams, Minnesota, Denver, and the Raiders, will all be fighting for. And the best trade package would probably come from the Raiders because they're sitting behind the other two. So for them to jump up from 13 to 9 might be our most lucrative trade package. And they have a lot of late-round picks, which we know Ryan Poles tries to work magic with. So if they're willing to give us their second this year and, say, a third next year, and even their third this year and a late-round pick, absolutely scoop that up and get Brian Thomas with our 13 overall pick. 100%. Brian Thomas is a freaking stud. Yeah, Pettis is quicker than people realize. Let me double-check it just to make sure I'm not wrong on that. Pettis ran a 4.32 second 40-yard dash at Washington, set the NCAA record with 9 punt return touchdowns. Pettis averaged 14.2 yards. Yeah, Pettis isn't a scrub. Just kind of hasn't worked out at the NFL level so far. So back to what I was talking about with, let me get to this. So there's the potential, but say we cut Homer. And these backloaded contracts have come about. So we cut Larry Borum. Cut Larry Borum. That saves us $3 million. And say Blasingame or Homer are cut, and we go the route of just the 4 running backs, no fullback, and another tight end. Well, all of a sudden, guys, we got $15.5 million in cap space. And so this is something that I personally on this channel have said our cap is gone. But then the announcement of how the contracts are structured have come out, and all of a sudden we got $10 million right now, 10.5, and we could potentially have $15 million. I think Ryan Poles is working something right now. I think he's got something up his sleeve. Who? I don't know. Let me look at. I was looking at earlier potential people who haven't signed yet, and there was a couple that I was saying, yeah, we could go after them. Let's see, where are we at here? So I'm just looking at PFF's available players. I don't think we go after Julian Blackmon. Obviously, we're loaded at safeties. So it's going to come down to whatever happens in the draft. So either way, I think we could end up getting someone afterwards, but there's players that haven't signed other places. I mean, even think about, say he's targeting trading back from 9 to 13, and he wants to get Zach Frazier in the second round, but someone takes Zach Frazier higher than we expected them to. Well, Connor Williams is still sitting there, and he's going to have to play this out because he had his injury. What if Ryan Poles backloads a contract for him because his first year he's not going to play more than 6 to 8 games, and gives him $5 million on the first year but on years 2 through 5 gives him $14 million. Well, that's a pretty freaking ideal situation for us because Shelton's on a 1-year deal. Shelton can play the 1 year at $3 million and then have Connor Williams, one of the best in the league, absolutely in my mind. Have Connor Williams sit out the first half of the year, get recouped back up, and then come in and be a huge impact for us. That's something that would blow my mind, and I would be very happy. It's possible, guys, with $15 million in cap space. So right now, as it is, we're sitting at $10.5 million in cap space, heading into the draft, including those draft picks. If we cut Larry Borum, if we cut Kerry Blasingame, we're sitting with plenty to be able to do that for Connor Williams, 100%. So that's something we probably wouldn't see until after the draft, but keep that on your radar. We have Coleman and Bates at center. I don't see Bates as a center, though. I see Bates as a guard. I see him being Jatari Carter's replacement, and I can still even see us, if we get enough draft picks, drafting someone higher quality. Bates, to me, is not a high-caliber signing or trade. I don't see Bates as the center. I see him as a guard. He could be a pinch fill-in center, but that still fits ideally with that situation. We got Coleman Shelton, and we got Bates, but Bates is really more of the guard option. And then having Connor Williams come off injury and come into the second half of the year, 100%, I'd love it. Yeah, Shelton is 100% a stopgap, no matter how you look at it. So keep that on your radar, guys. That's something that just sprang into my mind after I started seeing all of these contract details come out and how they're backloaded with less this year. Ryan Poles is planning on another player somewhere. Something's going to happen, and it probably won't be till after the draft, but he's planning on something, and he's working something out. And it might be another tight end. Let me go look at what tight ends are still available. All right, position, tight end. Pretty sparse. Logan Thomas. Is Logan Thomas not signed somewhere? That could be a good vet option for cheap. I hadn't even seen that Logan Thomas was still available. Maybe I'm off on that one. Let's see. Logan Thomas. Yeah. Logan Thomas is still free. I can see that happening too. How he likes to line people up as fullbacks out of the tight end position, have 12, 13 personnel sets. That's 100% something that could happen. So I can go over more of that in another video. That wasn't the focus today, but I'm really... My focus was that salary cap and how it's changed. I'll pull that back up for those who didn't see it, who might be jumping in now. Not going to go through each individual one, but here's our new salary cap as of today. Because of the way contracts have been coming out as backloaded, all of them, every single one, Bayard, Swift, and then today seeing Gerald Everett's, they're backloaded, so they're not as expensive this year. And so right now we're sitting at roughly 10.5, and Larry Borum's as good as gone in my book. Can't guarantee anything, but there's no reason we'd keep him on the team as soon as we get another tackle in the draft. So we're sitting roughly 13, 15 million. We can absolutely afford to go get a Connor Williams if the price is right, if he's willing to take that kind of situation where we front load it. All you guys with pancakes. Pancakes. Bates at center versus the Bears in 22. He pancaked Billings one-on-ones. I'll have to go look at that. I haven't seen that one. I will go look at that, though. I'm not saying Bates doesn't have good potential. I don't see him as a starting caliber guy, though. And I think he played better at guard than center. I think he's more of an emergency guard. Anyway, you slice that, though, guys, we are way better off than we were last year. Last year was rough. Lucas Patrick, who had some good moments on run defense, or on run blocking, and obviously Cody Whitehair. That's not nearly as good a situation where we already sit right now, and it could be even better. All right, Rob Hansen, how does Bates get fifth rounder in return, yet Justin Fields one only gets fourth potentially? Well, how do we get Keenan Allen for a fourth? It's all based off of teams and their immediate needs and how they played it out. Now, I think my personal take on that situation is I don't think Ryan Poles had decided to go rookie quarterback right off the bat. So there's the rumors. This is rumor time. This isn't fact-based at this point, but there's rumors that 5 teams had put offers in on Justin Fields at different points. And some of those rumors involve it being the Seahawks, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Eagles, and the Steelers. And rumor is one of those was as high as a second-round pick. Now, I don't think Ryan Poles had made his decision at that point. And the other thing that people need to realize is couldn't make a decision until we got Caleb Williams' medicals, and people are assuming we don't have his medicals now, but all he said at the Combine was he would get his medicals to teams that he would consider drafting him. He doesn't want him to go to all 32 teams. That hung things up. It did. It caused a rift in the timeline. It made things difficult. We're in a new era with NIL and players and their empowerment. Hate it all you want. It is what it is. This is where we are. So let's say Ryan Poles got those medicals from Caleb and his team and his camp, and then he was able to analyze and make his decision even further. I think that's part of a reason why you make a move at that point. And no, you can't keep Justin Fields and Caleb Williams and or / Jaden Daniels. It would be more divisive than it is now. And I like the idea of having them both. It could be. I'm going to get past the point right now on this channel where we're going to bash and make it a negative thing on Ryan Poles, because in the end of it all, it's very clear that Ryan Poles traded Justin Fields where Justin Fields wanted to go. Justin Fields might not have wanted to go to the West Coast, might not have wanted to go to Seattle or Las Vegas or Denver, even though some of those situations to me seem really good, especially Denver. Might have been a great situation for him. But Justin Fields didn't want to go there. He wanted to go to Pittsburgh. And Ryan Poles made that happen. He ended up making it the best situation for Justin Fields. And I give him a lot of respect for that, because even if we hung on to Justin Fields and he left in free agency, we'd probably get a better comp pick than a 6th-round pick. But it is what it is, and we move on from it. And I respect the fact that he went where he wanted to go. Medicals are done by team doctors, yes. But Caleb Williams said he would send his own medicals to those teams. And yes, so to be clear, when he comes in for a top 30 visit, they're going to do multiple things. They're going to do their own measurements. They're going to do their own medicals. They're going to have him throw for them. They're going to put him through the grinder. If you remember Darnell Wright talking about how he was just pressed, and Poles and Eberflus said, we pressed him. Then they're going to take him in. I don't know the order of it, but before or after then, they'll bring him in on the whiteboard, and they're going to pick his brain. They're going to try to dissect how much his football knowledge is, what he realizes where he went wrong, and maybe even his humility, maybe even the whole Bo Callahan, Brian Drew thing, and test him on the playbook. Did you see the $100 bill at the end of the book? And Brian Drew mailed it back and said, give this to me as signing bonus. There's so much they're going to do at this top 30 that's all going to be Bears related and how the Bears want to handle it. So that's going to be the real deciding point. Him, and I think he is more, we call it cocky, and he is cocky, but I think he has more NFL swagger in him to be able to shut out the naysayers and be confident enough to present himself as that elite number one guy, more than Jaden Daniels does. But I think Jaden Daniels' game as of right now would translate a little better with his anticipation. But that's not the point of this. I wanted to keep Justin Fields, wanted to build around him as much as anyone, but let's be honest, he should be further along. But yeah, Jim Helms, I agree. So I've shown that he has made progress every year, and we can blame Getsy, we can blame the line, we can blame receivers, but if he was going to be kept by the Bears, he would have had to done more personally to make it not just incremental advancements, not just slight, but he would have had to go to superstar status. He would have had to do more to establish himself as a top 10 quarterback at this point for us to have considered keeping him. And that's just the way it is. So we move on from him. Caleb will be at Hallis Hall 10 days before the draft. Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting time frame for everything. It's all going to get lumped right there. It's all going to get a lot of big decisions happening right there. And that, if we do trade down from 1, it could be on draft day. Would you still love a move down to 2 if you can get 3 seconds? Nope. Not for 3 seconds, I wouldn't. Take the quarterback you want. Don't trade down for 3 seconds. No, it's got to involve some firsts. It's got to involve some future leverage to be able to build this team for the future. Still think we can get Cade Stover? I just don't. Unless he falls to 122, I would love Cade Stover. I think Ben Sennett might pass him up too, in either one of them. So, man, I don't know if we're going to draft a tight end, to be honest, guys. I think I think right now, as it stands right now, we got 4 picks. 4. And as it stands, we have to have quarterback. We have to have an X wide receiver, whether that comes early or later. And I really, really think it's going to come in the first round. And we've got to have a swing tackle. We have to. Whether it's someone that replaces Braxton Jones or comes in to be a depth piece that's a stronger swing tackle for us, we've got to have at least those 3 positions. Now, we don't have a tight end 3, but that's something really easy to fill in free agency with a league minimum contract that doesn't affect the salary cap. Point in case, Mercedes Lewis. I think the 1-1 price went up post JF1 trade 100%, guys, 100%, because now we have all the leverage. If the Commanders want Caleb Williams and nothing else will suffice, and Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham say Jaden Daniels to us is 1B. He's not quite Caleb Williams, but we see all the potential, and we see this as a Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert type of draft where either guy could be our franchise quarterback, and we're going to get now it's not a future first and 2 second rounders this year. I'm serious when I say this. If they want us to come off of Caleb Williams, it's got to be a swap of 1 to 2, both seconds this year, next year's first, and 2026's first, which is absolutely insane, which is why I don't think it'll happen. But if the Commanders want us to come off of him, that's what it's going to take. Also, some of this 3rd, 4th string depth could come via UDA. Yeah, I just wish we were past those days. We're past the days of 6th, 7th round picks filling the roster because of necessity. Past undrafted free agents. That's fine at certain positions like linebacker. You can find some studs in undrafted free agency. Sometimes in your defensive back room and sometimes with your linemen, but not very often. I just don't want to be in those days anymore. All right, I don't think we're going to go too much longer. I intended this to be about a half hour, probably go 45 minutes-ish, just so you guys know. The leverage changed even more. Yeah, the biggest thing, so any of those who are jumping on now, the biggest thing for today, I wanted to show the salary cap. That's something I'm big on. I'm just a nerd like that. I just like to look at those things. We are sitting now at about $10.5 million because of the way those contracts have been allocated because of Ryan Poles and his genius. Everybody can be mad at Ryan Poles if they want to, but as of right now, he's really setting himself apart with some contract work. I want to see a Keenan Allen extension for at least a year or 2. I want that stability and consistency with whatever rookie comes in. I want to see a wide receiver, but if we end up with $15 million, that's where I want to go, and I'll probably make a video on it just so you guys can see it in a more laid out fashion where you can just kind of check it out at your leisure. But Connor Williams is very much on the table. He's going to drag out his free agency because he wants the best deal available, and teams are going to want to see how his healing progresses. But I can very much see Connor Williams signing for one of those contracts that are backloaded like Ryan Poles is doing. Say we get him for $5.5, $6 million, that still puts us right within our buffer range. We'd still have $8, $9 million in buffer, and then $14 million for the next 3-4 years. On top of that, we've got a lockdown center. It's just these big boys with those ACL injuries aren't the same as other positions when they're recovering. They're really going to want to have medicals on him and make sure that he recovers right. And how do you do that right at the beginning of that injury? I don't know. So maybe Poles is thinking long term too. We're going to carry a bigger buffer into the season. Shelton is great for us as a starting center. He's 16th, 17th best in the league. Not top tier, but definitely better than what we had. And as we get into the season and we evaluate him, if Connor Williams, they could be having talks with Connor Williams right now. And say, hey, we want to keep evaluating you. Keep us up on your medicals. Let us know how things are going. But we're keeping an extra buffer in our salary cap because we want to bring you in if your healing goes well. Those are all things that could happen, 100%. If Rome Alter there at 9. Man, I keep picking. Jim, you keep talking at the right time because every time I look down, I got to go to someone else. Buckmeister. If we're committed to a quarterback and our receiver room is good enough to start with and our D is good enough, the last solid you can do for a rookie is protection. Doesn't matter how many receivers we have. 100%. I just think that Ryan Poles is looking at the depth of this tackle class because of what he said at the Combine. He said specifically it's a very deep offensive tackle class. So I think he fully intends to take that 75th pick and be a tackle. And as we mentioned earlier, Kieran Agbenjabi, I don't know how to say his last name, and I don't have it in front of me to try to muster it out and screw it up, is already scheduled for a top 30 visit with the Bears. That doesn't mean everything. Most of the top 30s that come in don't get signed, and you don't have to have a top 30 to end up getting drafted. A lot of people don't come in for the top 30 that are drafted. Either you take a tackle at 9 or you trade back and take JPJ and tackle in round 2. I don't know about that because the top of this class is so elite with wide receiver. And yeah, you can say the same thing and say it's a deep wide receiver class. But the reality is there's 4 wide receivers at the top of this draft this year that in any other draft class would be top 5 picks. They're that good. And I would take, in my preference, Marvin Harrison Jr. 1, but right behind him, Rome Odunze, and right behind him, Brian Thomas Jr. I think all 3 of those, I wouldn't be upset one bit if Ryan Poles took Brian Thomas Jr. at 9 without a trade back. 100%. Because you don't know if the Colts love him so much, they're going to trade up ahead of and say the Raiders trade us for 9 and we go back to 13 and the Colts say, well, we can't have this. We know what they're doing. We're going to trade up with Minnesota or we're going to trade up with the Broncos because Broncos need more draft capital. We're going to trade from 15 to 12 and they steal them out from under us. There's so many options. That's the point of this, guys. There's so many freaking options. Draft night's going to be fun. I am going to do a live feed similar to this, but with the draft on, live reactions. We'll see how it goes. I am 100% going to be on for that, and I expect at this point Caleb Williams at 1, and depending on where things fall, we'll stack it up. We'll have things ready as it goes, and the first part of that draft is just going to be so freaking special. This roster feels 33% better already. Yep, 100%. I'd even say 50% better. You're right, 33%. Adam, so what do you think about we take Caleb number 1 and then trade down the number 9 pick, take Brennan Rice, wide receiver who has experience with Caleb? I just don't think Brennan Rice will be there at 75. Your mock draft simulators aren't realistic about where players are going to go. I think Brennan Rice goes above 75. Now, if we trade back and we get another pick around the 60s, 50s, and we get Brennan Rice, I'm completely open to that because we know Caleb likes to play hero ball and he likes his X receiver. He's also going to need players that get open, which is one of the biggest reasons I want Brian Thomas, because Brian Thomas has one of the best separation rates in all of college football. He separates it a way that's just unbelievable. And then once he gets the ball, the way he runs an open field, 4.33 speed, 6'3", I'm really high on him. Yeah, I love Leggett too. I love Xavier Leggett. I love that he's like DJ Moore and he can run people over like a running back once he has the ball. I don't care that he's 6'1", but I don't see him as the X receiver either. So there's different options there. Yeah, 34.5% at least. I'm with you there. I'll go Caleb, trade back, Verse if he's there, Frazier round 2, round 3. We'll trade down, we'll take Rice. All right, knowledge untamed. I 100% agree in one respect that you win Super Bowls through the trenches. One thing I said on Nomad Network earlier today, and a lot of people you don't have to agree with me, guys. None of you guys have to agree with me. I give my opinion because I have basis for it, and I do so much research on this team, it's ridiculous. I'm someone who spends way too much time on the Bears, if that's possible. DeMarcus Walker is starter quality with Tez there. The worst thing that could happen to this team is if Montez Sweat goes down. It will destroy our defense. So I'm not in favor of taking a defensive end at 9 because DeMarcus Walker is starter quality with Montez Sweat there. DeMarcus Walker went from 11 plays between a sack, hit, and hurry to 8, which is among the best in the NFL once Montez Sweat got here. His missed tackle rate went from 30% down below 10% when Montez Sweat got here. Nerdy analytical stuff, nerdy stats stuff, but it's real. Like the Montez Sweat factor is real, 100%. And if that can make DeMarcus Walker high-end starter quality, I don't love Dominique Robinson on this team, but we did sign, what was his name? You guys might know it faster than me. From New England, the edge that's just like Yannick Ngakoue. All right, I got to look it up. Gots to look it up. Where is he? Jake Martin. So Jake Martin was converted from a 4-3 to a 3-4, or 3-4 to a 4-3. Outside linebacker, went edge last year, and his sack hit hurry rate is once every 7 to 8 plays, which is phenomenal. But he's also rotational, so he's not playing every down, and he's smaller. He's 242 pounds. He's just like Yannick, which I didn't love, if you guys know that. I didn't love that last year. I wasn't excited about the Yannick signing. I do want us to have more of a Jared Verse, Leatu Latu type of guy on the other side. But next year's draft class is elite edges. Like, seriously, one of the best edge classes ever. So having Gervon Dexter, having Andrew Billings, having Zach Pickens, we need another defensive tackle. I see us trading down from 9 and getting a D tackle in the second round. Brandon Fisk would be freaking awesome. Adam, statistically, is a rookie quarterback better with a stud line or average line with stud skill positions? Oof. I don't have those stats on top of me, but I would say a line, man, can we go right in the middle of where that graph merges? Because we've already got 2 stud receivers, and we've got a good line. The thing with this line, guys, is it's not garbage players. We didn't have a single lineup start game to game that was consistent all year. From one game to the next, now we had the same lineup for different games, just at different points in the season, but we didn't have consistency and cohesion. I have no problem with Nate Davis starting as long as he gets back to the way he looked at Tennessee. He had a rough year personally, and then once on the field, I can't imagine what he went through losing his mom right in the middle of when he's supposed to be super focused. That's hard. That's a hard thing, and I'm not going to judge him for it because he has the ability to play big. So having Coleman Shelton, having those two, having Braxton, who needs a little, and I 100%, Braxton has that type of attitude where he goes to work in the offseason. I think he's going to keep improving. But having Darnell Wright, yeah, we need a better tackle for a swing tackle. We don't necessarily need a better starter. But if we're going to make a deep playoff run, if Joe Alt's there at 9, I'm taking him 100%. So my answer, I would say every rookie quarterback is going to have a better chance with a better line than with stacked receivers. Because if you're getting pressure on you, you have no chance to throw. So my final answer is that. But the reality is you've got to have the whole team concept for the whole thing. We won't get an elite edge at 32 next year, though. I like that answer, Juice. I like that a lot. Yeah, but if we trade back and we get a future first rounder, we can steal somebody else's. But there are good edges at 32 next year. That's how good this edge class is. It's like this year's wide receiver class. I showed him in one of my little videos, Landon Jackson. He should be somewhere in the mid-20s. I mean, there's seriously like 7 or 8 edges that will go next year. If we get Landon Jackson, that's like this year's Darius Robinson, just kind of elevated his stock big time. Landon Jackson elevated his stock big time but went back for another year. That would be big. I'm hoping Nate Davis has a big bounce back season because he is a stud guard. Guys, yeah, we're hard on Nate because of how bad he played last year, but he 100% could have a big year, and I want to see him do that. Love Alt at 9 won't happen. Latham at Alabama. Yeah, I just don't see us taking a first rounder if we don't get Alt. I don't even see Fuaga. I don't see Fashanu even. I see more value at going X receiver. Alt over Odunze if both are available. Oh, no. I wouldn't. I would take Odunze. Guys, I love Odunze. So Odunze isn't as clean a route runner as Brian Thomas, but Odunze is going to battle. And with a rookie, it's nice to have a rookie have that confidence that he can huck it. I mean, look at C.J. Stroud last year. Now, I think people get sick of me comparing it because my take on it is different than the national media. C.J. Stroud was not special last year. He had confidence because certain things happened. C.J. Stroud had a worse poor pass rating than Justin Fields, and he had a worse adjusted completion percentage, which is the true accuracy of a quarterback. But C.J. Stroud could sit back there because of Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Xavier Hutchinson. Man, I'm forgetting 5 people because they had 8 above average tight ends and receivers. Dalton Schultz. He could literally see his guys and huck it up there Hail Mary style and have confidence they could come down with it. That's Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze had the highest contested catch rate in all of college football. Imagine your ex-receiver having that, might not have the separation and the speed. He's fast. He's not slow. and have the speed and get out there, and your quarterback having the confidence to huck it up and win 70% of the time on those contested catches. That does a lot for a rookie quarterback, a ton. Braxton will get Caleb killed. We'll be crying to his mom in the stands. Oh, come on. I agree, but come on. Braxton isn't that bad, guys. He's not that bad. He looks like he's not as strong on the bottom, but I think this offseason he's going to be building his base up. I think he's gonna handle that bull rush a little bit better. But Braxton's by all means not a scrub, but he's not a top tier tackle that you'd take to the Super Bowl. Yeah, we've got some dissension here. Not everyone has to agree with me. 100%. You don't have to agree with me, guys. All right, we're going to wrap it up pretty soon. It's going longer than I wanted it to, but I appreciate it. This is fun for me, yucking it up with you guys, talking Bears football. So, again, to recap, number one, Notre Dame's Pro Day was today. Chris Morgan was there, and head of player personnel. I can't remember his name right now. I didn't remember it earlier. I could look it up, but I'll just waste more time. And then a couple of scouts were there. Clearly, they were looking at Javon Foster and Joe Alt. That's clearly what they were looking at. So, yes, they have interest at Alt at 9 if he falls to 9. Salary cap has been released on Gerald Everett's, on DeAndre Swift's, on several of them. Some were earlier than today, but Gerald Everett's was today. It shows that we're backloading those contracts, creating more space for this year, which leads me to believe that we're 100% planning something. If you want to go tinfoil hat on and conspiracy, I believe that's Connor Williams right now, especially with Shelton's 1-year, $3 million contract, that we could have him be the bridge gap to Connor Williams getting healthy. We're not going to sign Connor Williams this early because every team's going to want to see how healthy he returns, how his recovery process goes. He's going to wait it out anyways. And if we don't end up drafting a center in this draft, I 100% believe that could be the path that we go, is signing Connor Williams, especially if we cut Larry Borum, that saves $3 million. If we cut Kerry Blasingame, that saves $2 million. That's $15 million. Front load him with $6.5 million this year and $14 million for the next 3 or 4 years after that. And we've signed Connor Williams before the season starts to sit for the first, sit for the first 10 games, take over, maybe not take over, but be here for next year. And, Connor Williams played guard as well. So, there's just so many options with that signing. That's my tinfoil hat moment for the day. That's where I think we're going. We do have LSU's Pro Day. I don't know how the rumor got started that the owners' meetings happen the same day as LSU's Pro Day. That's not true. The owners' meetings are at the beginning of the week. The Pro Day is on Wednesday. I fully expect to see all of the Bears brass there, just like at Caleb's camp. And if they aren't, that'll be pretty freaking telling. But I think they'd be there anyway for Brian Thomas. I really, it might not be them seeing it that way, but I really, really am super high on Brian Thomas. Jadeveon Clowney as a 1-year cheap Band-Aid, that could happen with the cap space we have. They could go that. That's about the only edge that's left that you could sign. So Sebastian Koziel, that could 100% happen. That dude you know and love, I'll give you a little bit of love. Thanks for the super chat. 149, really appreciate that. If you guys haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. I do appreciate that as well. Have a great evening, everyone, from Evie. The same. So there's a little recap on it, guys. Not a whole lot happening right now, but don't keep your ears closed at this point. There could be something happen with the salary cap now that those have been announced, and now that we know where things are with that. We've got a little bit of space. We could see a signing. It might not be a major signing, but it could be a signing. So LSU Pro Day, Neighbors and Thomas Jr., also Jaden Daniels, also Mason Smith. I can see them going to see Mason Smith there. Oh, the other thing at Notre Dame, I don't think they were there to see him, especially with who showed up for that. But Audric Estime was getting criticized. Running back that I like was getting criticized for his 40 time. He ended up running a much quicker 40 at his own pro day. Ended up being a 4.55 or a 4.58, something like that. So it was really good. So I wouldn't take Fashanu at 9. No, I would not. I would take wide receiver or I would trade back. That's what I would do. So, hey, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Good to sit and chat with all of you guys. I think we might do this more often on Thursdays. I won't be doing it next Thursday. I am actually flying to Arlington. I'm going to go to the Cubs season opener next Thursday. Maybe I'll do something live really quick from there. Nothing long because I know this is a Bears channel. It's not a Cubs channel. Football's more important anyways, but I do love the Cubs too. So I'm going to be flying there next Thursday. So I won't be doing this next Thursday, but probably after that I'll be doing some live more often, along with my normal videos I'm doing as well. And we're going to get right into the thick of pro days, into the thick of the draft in 1 month from now. So it's coming up on us. So thanks for those of you, everyone, obviously tuning in. Thanks for being here. Going to be a fun season. And until next time, we're going to end it now. We're going to stop it. But thanks for being here, and bear down.